My primary inspiration growing up, I guess, was my grandfather, who was the pipe organ player in my church, and I was part of his choir along with my mother. And after a while, she started conducting the choir, and there was just music in the family all through my life, growing up, all through school. When I reached college, there were a lot of Indian bands who would perform at that time. Bands like Moksha. So growing up, what inspired me most, I could say, is just the people around me. Actually, while I was doing engineering, I was always a musician. Like after a day of college, I would come home and practice with the band almost daily. Music was always something which I was going to do, whether I had a normal job or not. But I think the decision which I took after engineering was probably a bold decision, because I had a job. I had two jobs, two IT jobs, and I decided not to take it. Not because music was a passion, obviously it was, but I had to also support myself and try and earn the same amount of money as I would in an IT company. Until I was sure of that, I did not make that decision. So after my engineering, what really worked for me was I joined a tech kind of company which was into music production and into software. Even though it was very technical, because I liked computers, it was about music which I enjoyed. So I did that for 1 year, and after that I continued to teach and use music technology as well as play music. It's very simple. You first have to enjoy it. You first have to, it has to be a passion. It's like if you want to be a cricketer, you have to enjoy cricket. It's not because your parents are forcing you or anything like that. You should really want to be a really good cricketer or a really good musician or a really good painter. And if that's what you want to do, just work towards it, enjoy yourself, and remember, the music as a field is not something you can make a career of immediately. There are quite a few hardships which you have to do. You have to play a lot of free concerts, to get your name or your band's name established. You have to keep doing that. So you do not really need to just give up everything and do music. That's something which I thought I did well, because apart from doing music, you would continue having your day job. So you will reach a point, I guess, after a while, where the day job or whatever else you're doing just takes up too much of your time, and you want to free up some time for music. And I guess that's where you kind of just do music. But what I would advise youngsters is, don't just give up everything and just do music. There's nothing wrong in doing something else as well. So if you like computers, for example, do it. And if you're a journalist, continue doing what you love doing and still play your guitar. I don't see anything wrong in doing two things. But once you reach a point where you have to commit to music because you're doing so much of it, you're playing gigs, you're probably playing about 5 shows a month, you're recording, you're a sessions artist, you're doing ad jingles for a movie, for various commercials and films, short films. Once you have a lot on your plate, I guess that's where you make the switch and just do music. Any musician has to obviously go through 3 phases in their learning. One is listening, and then watching. You watch people play guitar and you try and learn from what they're playing. And then finally there's also reading. So I think there are 3 avenues for learning music. So when you're listening to music, you either listen to it because you enjoy listening to what you're listening to, or you're listening it to analyze the notes and to analyze the chords and to analyze the rhythm. So if you do a bit of both, that's when I guess you're a musician. But if you just listen to music because you enjoy it, then you just love music, like I think all of us do. Whether we are musicians or not, we all like music. Music is always, I've learned the most performing music uh, all through most of my career, but now that I've become a teacher, I also learn a lot by teaching music. You have to wake up every morning, and the first thing which you're itching to do or dying to do is just go and play your piano or play the guitar. Whether you have a job, whether you have college, whether you have an exam that day, it should be the first thing you want to do, and it should probably also be one of the last things you do. I'm not saying it should be the only thing, but you should always have that that interest to play, and that can only come from you. That can only come from you as a person. There's no one who can really force you to take this up. So if you think music is for you, then I think you should do it, and don't do it as a profession. Don't think of it as a profession. Think of it as something fun and interesting and challenging, and just like playing a sport. When we were all in school, we all would have at least played something, whether it's basketball, cricket, or whatever. And then later on, like a minute percentage of our classmates would probably do that as a profession. It's the same with music. I think I'm probably the only guy in my class in engineering who ended up doing music as a career. So if you think music is for you, yeah, that's the first thing. You have to have that motivation, and then there's a lot of help. You have the internet, you have schools, you have all these other avenues to take your learning and your career to the next level. I think there are a lot of ways now to be a professional musician. You could learn music from a credit, like an institution like Trinity College or Royal College, and you get a degree. You get a certificate of completion. You could use that certificate to perhaps get a teaching job, or maybe get a job in a studio as a sessions musician or whatever. But at the end of the day, I think it all boils down to how well you play in this field, or how good you are at your instrument. So if you have decent technique, if you know your music theory in and out, you can play. So I don't think in today's world a certificate matters at all. In fact, I know so many players, including myself and everyone around me, who just play music, who are touring all over the world, who are in studios recording for the next Indian film, and they have not got a degree. They have no doubt learnt music, but I don't think a certification and all that really matters unless the education is good. If the education is good, then why? Then I'm for it. So, yeah. With music, it's a bit different than other professions, no doubt. But you have to be good, and you also have to have good communication skills. It's also very important. For example, if you're interacting with a client and you're trying to showcase your skills, you can't hide that. You have to try and market it well. You have to tell them, listen, I'm good at what I do, and check me out and call me for your next production. So I think it's a combination of being good at what you do and then being able to also sell yourself. It doesn't sound very good, but unfortunately that's what you have. We were always teaching. I think my mom and me she has a lot of experience. She's been teaching kids singing, piano, music theory for ages. So what we thought of doing to our course was basically to get students to do what we used to do. So when we were in college, our greatest way of learning music was to perform, go on stage, play in front of a live audience, and that's what I always believed is a great way to learn, because it puts you in a really high pressure environment where you cannot fail. You have one option to do your best. So we really have to practice for a live concert. So that's what we implemented at Nathaniel. It never started off as an experiment. We always believed that this was the right way to learn music. So we pulled in some of the best players and teachers you could find in South India, who we were very lucky to have. People who could play heavy metal, who could play folk rock, could play blues, who could play jazz, country, Carnatic, you name it, they're all here. And we thought of teaching the students, giving them a proper structured course. We've divided it into levels. So you have level 1, which is for a complete beginner. You have level 2, which is for an intermediate student, and level 3 is for an advanced student and someone who's really looking to take up a career in music. So apart from teaching them all of these basic structured things about music, theory, technique, ear training, the final part of the course, which we believe is the most important, is getting them all to go on stage and play their hearts out to a live audience. And I think that's the biggest motivation, and that's what keeps this course going. So that's pretty much what we do. It's a standard music course which we enjoy teaching, but what we enjoy more is to see our students on stage, playing to a live audience, and some of them after which pursuing higher learning in music, starting their own studio. I've been supported a lot by my parents. All through engineering, they've supported me and they said, if you want to do music, go for it and do it. But I think that's a challenge which a lot of us face. The main thing is you have to convince your parents, or your parents have to be sure that you are inclined in the music profession. So I think that's the first challenge. You have to, because for most of us, an engineering job or a medical job or being a lawyer, all of those things are very structured and defined jobs. You know that there is a career out there, a very well defined career path which you can see yourself, you can see progress for about 20-30 years. But with music it's a bit different. The moment you start slacking, you can actually go down from where you started. It's a bit different than most other careers. So it's a bit challenging. So I think you should first convince your parents. That's the first challenge, and after that, I don't see any other challenges as such. If you want to take up music, there are so many things you can do. There's not a lot of expense. It doesn't cost much to buy a guitar or a keyboard. It's probably quarter the price of today's modern mobile phone. So everything is quite affordable. So I think you just have to convince everyone around you, and you have to get out of the standard norms and conventions that I have to do this after that. You have to try and figure that out. And music is a very serious profession. It's a serious career. There are so many things you can do as a musician. You could be a player, you could be a manager, you could be a composer, you could just be a studio artist all your life. You could do anything in the music industry, really. So there are so many options available to you. If music is for you, if you think it's your passion, go for it. And there's definitely scope for music in India. There's definitely scope for music all across the world, with the internet and with so many other things. So don't really get scared about taking up music. If you think it's for you, if it's what you like doing, do it. And if you don't have money, don't worry, continue working and you can still play music. I love Mondays.